We all know the mantra, pay your dues and graduate from college, and you'll enjoy a successful career. So for some, the goal is a bachelor's degree. There's an unspoken belief that the job market is just waiting for hordes of ambitious, eager young graduates to slide into high-paying jobs in the corner office. But statistics tell a different story. This is known as the skills gap. You must have the technical and employable skills industry requires in order to compete for jobs within your chosen career.
Let us learn workability and the factor which affect the workability of the concrete. So before starting, let us just get into the basics. The workability is that property of concrete by which it gains the ability to flow, and it can be easily handled at site and can be compacted. Now, if we see through the reactions which we have studied in the previous module, it is the water which provides the strength during the reaction with cement by forming the CSH gel. But at the same time, water is the only lubricant which provides the ability to aggregate to slide over each other with less friction. So we can say that more the water, more will be the cement paste, and more will be the cement paste which result into the greater ability of aggregates to flow over each other. So as we increase the water content, the workability will definitely increase. But as we have studied, as the water cement ratio increases, the strength is highly reduced. So now we are into a trap. Now if we increase the water cement ratio, our strength will decrease. And if we decrease the water cement ratio, then strength will increase, but the workability will highly reduce. Now, due to this, there is a limit to water cement ratio, beyond which it can neither be increased nor be decreased, and hence we have a defined workability of a concrete. So basically, if we study, the function of water is to start the cement reaction, but it also required to lubricate, as we just discussed, the concrete so that the concrete can be compacted and placed. If the concrete cannot be compacted, then there will be air voids which will make the concrete weak. So the compaction is necessary to ensure the dense concrete. When sufficient lubricant is not provided, then such condition arises. Hence, water cement ratio at site can be theoretically more, but this will result into the less strength. Such concrete which have sufficient lubrication. Now since there is a lubrication, there will be a less friction between the aggregates, which will definitely help in easy handling. It can be easily transported, it can be easily pumped through pipes, it can be placed into any desired shape, and it can be easily compacted to minimize the air voids. Now the concrete which satisfy the above requirement is termed as the workable concrete. Now in technical terms, workability can be defined as a property of concrete by which ease with which concrete can be 100% compacted, having regards to the mode of compaction and place of deposition. So in a very simple word, if we want to define the workability, then we can say that workability is that property of a concrete which decides its ability to flow and its ability to get compacted. So compaction and flow, these are the two properties which is defined by the term workability. Now since we have already understood that water cement ratio is restricted, it cannot be increased, it cannot be decreased. So let us see what other factors control the workability. So the first factor is the water content. Higher the water content, higher will be the fluidity, resulting in better workability. But there is a limit to it, beyond which water content cannot be increased as it reduces the strength. However, at site you will find that supervisors will have a practice of mixing water to concrete with low workability. But it's a wrong practice as it increases the water cement ratio, which will decrease the strength. Suppose there is a TM which is requested by a particular engineer. When the TM reaches the site, the concrete in the TM is very hard. So what the supervisor will do, he will add the water to increase the workability. But this is a very wrong practice. Instead, if there is somehow a requirement to add water, then it must be added along with the cement, so that at least we maintain the water cement ratio, although it should be structurally approved or approved by the quality, but still instead of adding a water cement must be added to maintain the ratio. Second, mix proportion. The ratio in which aggregate and cement are present in the concrete also plays a very important role. Suppose you have in a very simple way, let us try to understand this. We are producing a concrete. अब हम एक ऐसा concrete बना रहे हैं जिसमें aggregate is in a great number and the cement paste is very less. What do you think? Will it have the ability to flow? Aggregate बहुत ज़्यादा है, cement paste बहुत कम है, तो concrete flow कर पाएगा? नहीं. The reason being, aggregate एक दूसरे से फ्रिक्शन के कारण मूव नहीं कर पाएंगे और वो फ्रिक्शन को रिड्यूस करने के लिए सीमेंट पेस्ट सफिशिएंट अवेलेबल नहीं होगा. सो वी कैन कंक्लूड, अगर एग्रीगेट सीमेंट रेशियो इज हायर, दैट्स मीन एग्रीगेट बहुत ज़्यादा है, सीमेंट कम है, इन दैट केस देयर विल बी मोर फ्रिक्शन बिटवीन द एग्रीगेट्स एंड द एबिलिटी ऑफ कंक्रीट टू फ्लो विल बी लेसर. एज एग्रीगेट सीमेंट रेशियो इंक्रीजेस, concrete workability decreases due to less quantity of cement paste available for providing the lubrication between the unit surface area of aggregate. Now coming to the third point, the size of the aggregate. Now we have to just relate every factor with the friction, because friction is the thing which causes the resistance to the flow. Now friction is dependent on what factor? Friction is purely dependent on the surface area. More the surface area, more will be the friction. So if we have a choice of more surface area and lesser surface area, what we will select? We will definitely select lesser surface area because it will result in lesser friction. We need a lesser friction for more workability. Now size of aggregate. Now if we have to choose aggregate, bigger or smaller, which one we should choose? We should definitely choose the bigger one, because the total surface area of bigger aggregates will be much lesser than the total surface area of a smaller aggregates. Lesser the surface area, lesser will be the friction. Lesser will be the friction, more will be the workability. So we should develop the logic behind every statement. The bigger the size of aggregate, lesser will be the surface area, and hence less amount of water will be required for wetting the surface, and less paste is required for lubricating the surface to reduce the internal friction. Now again, let us come to the shape of the aggregate. Again this is the fourth factor. Again we have to relate or logically think that how shape is related to the friction. अगर shape और friction के बीच में we have to guess the relation, then we can say कि जितना angular shape रहेगा उतना ज़्यादा एक दूसरे के साथ friction होगा, और जितना सर्कुलर और स्मूथ रहेगा उतना कम फ्रिक्शन होगा. अगर एक बॉक्स में हमारे पास सर्कुलर बॉल्स हैं और एक में क्यूबाइडल बॉल्स हैं, तो उस बॉक्स को शेक करने पे कौन सा ज़्यादा इजीली मूव हो पाएगा? द आंसर इज सर्कुलर वन, बिकॉज सर्कुलर का सरफेस एरिया कम होगा. सरफेस एरिया कम होगा तो फ्रिक्शन कम होगा, फ्रिक्शन कम होगा तो वर्केबिलिटी ज़्यादा होगी. सो व्हेन इट कम्स टू द शेप, वी should think in the same logic. We need a shape in which the friction should be lesser. Now we have two type of shapes. Either we can have angular, elongated or flaky, or we can have a circular. So the shape in which the concrete will have more flow will be the rounded shape. So let us go through the shape of aggregate. The shape of aggregate highly influence the workability. Angular, elongated and flaky aggregate make the concrete very harsh when compared to rounded aggregate or cubical shaped aggregate due to less surface area, less friction. So again the same logic, if the surface area is reduced, then the friction is reduced. If the friction is reduced, then the workability is increased, which is the main objective. This is one of the reasons why the river sand or gravel provide better workability than crushed sand or aggregate, because crushed sand is angular, whereas the river sand is more rounded particles. Now the factor fifth, which is the surface texture of aggregate. Now again we'll think by the same logic. Now if you given a choice to have a texture, will you choose a rough texture or a smooth texture? Now let us apply the logic. In a rough texture there will be more surface area, in the smooth texture there will be a less surface area. So rough texture will create more friction, smooth texture will create less friction. We need a less friction for more workability, so we will go with smooth. So whenever given a choice, we will select those aggregates which have a smooth surface. Now let us undergo through this fifth factor. The total surface area is more in rough textured aggregate and less in smooth surface aggregate. Since lower the surface area, lesser will be the friction, more will be the workability. Smooth surface aggregate have more workability than rough surface aggregate. Now coming to the sixth factor, which is the grading of aggregate. Now grading have a maximum impact on the workability. The reason being, we need to go into the definition of workability, which is its ability to flow and ability to compact. So compaction is very much dependent on the grading, and this must be clear to you through your web module session. So well graded aggregate will have a lesser air voids. Since the voids are less, excess paste is available to make the concrete lubricant. In another way, if we want to think, जो graded well graded aggregates होंगे, उनका जो साइज होगा वो इस तरीके से डिफाइन होगा कि हमें मैक्सिमम डेंसिटी मिलेगी और एयर वॉइड्स मिनिमम होंगे. जब एयर वॉइड्स मिनिमम होंगे तो जो सीमेंट पेस्ट होगा वो इन एयर वॉइड्स में वेस्ट नहीं होगा. वो सीमेंट पेस्ट यूटिलाइज होगा टू create a layer around the aggregate and reduce the friction. So the friction will be lesser, the workability will be more. Now coming to the final factor which affects the workability, that is the use of admixtures. Now we have already gone through in the previous module that admixtures, especially the plasticizer or the super plasticizer, have a great impact on the workability because they not only reduce the water content but they reduce the friction, due to which the aggregate able to produce a better flow. Admixture can greatly improve the workability by reducing friction between aggregate due to their lubricating property. Air entraining admixture, it creates the air bubble which behave as a ball bearing between the aggregate to slide over each other. So these are the 7th factor which affects the workability, and as a civil engineer you should only develop a single logic, that is to get more workability there should be a less friction between the aggregate, and the less friction between the aggregate, it depends on the surface area of the aggregate, and further logic can be developed based on the different site conditions.
Education is core to our economy. But in order to guide our educational systems and maximize future income, we must understand the misalignment between education and our work. The university degree is no longer the guaranteed path towards financial success as it was for previous generations. And even if you do earn one, that education alone may not be enough. In today's highly technical, knowledge-based economy, having hands-on skills and perfecting what you're good at can be more valuable than getting a degree in something simply to get one. Employers want to know what you can do and what you can do well, not just what degree hangs on your wall. Is career exploration. Understand the jobs available, the income ranges they pay, and evaluate the skills they require. Identifying is to align your interests and abilities with your first career choice and the education and training you'll need to receive. This alignment will help bring your future into focus and ensure your position at the top of the pay scale in your chosen career.